Hey everyone, it's Jen with ChappyPlans. Join me today for December Daily Stories 23 and 24. Hey friends, it's Jen with ChappyPlans. This is December Daily, my second album for 2024, and these stories will be 23 and 24. Story 23 is about twinkle lights, as you can see, going to see lights at some houses. And I have already printed out photos and selected the items that I'm going to use to tell this story, which are all these fun little ornaments. There are several types of ornaments in this year's kit and available as add-ons. I chose to use the patterned paper ones because they're on the back of the transparency. And since I just used the transparency ornaments, I decided to switch it up just a little bit for this side. So I have the camera sped up so you can see I'm fussy cutting out these ornaments. And then I also have some photos and they're printed at just about 2 inches in diameter. And they are literally just going to be taped down. That's all I'm doing is taping them to the backside of story number 23. If you remember, that was a story I told about Nora and her cousin Fiona. So there's little photos and journaling and things like that underneath the transparent ornaments on the flip side of this story, which will be story 24. Sorry, I said this was stories 23 and 24. It's 24 and 25. I apologize. I've had a long day. It's the end of the day on a Friday, and so my brain is like just done. So anyhow, I am going to cut out all of these photos. I have 3 photos. We on the way home from Chapman Christmas, we stopped and decided to look for some fancy houses with lights, and we found some that had such an amazing display. It was like they had their lights sync to music, and I love that in this larger photo that I'm going to use, it says, you can see the sign that says tuned to 102.7, which was the station you would just put on in your car, and then their lights were synced up to the music that they had chosen, which is so awesome. It was really cool, actually, and Nora was blown away by just the intricacy of all of it. And her first word was light, and she absolutely loves lights. And ever since she was little, she's been obsessed with Christmas lights especially. And her name means light of the Father. So I always like to try to document stories that have to do with light in my December daily. It's got just obviously several meanings, and it's special. So it was really fun to put these together. So I'm just going to leave a little teeny tiny itty bitty white border around the fussy cut ornaments. And then I decided that the journaling was very simple. And so I was trying to figure out where I wanted to add the journaling. And I wanted to do something different because I already did on story 23. I did the journaling underneath one of the ornaments. And so for this one, I decided I would have a little journaling just pull up and be tucked in to the photo. So you'll see that in just a second. Right now, I'm going to be looking for things to embellish the photos with. I didn't really know. I knew I wanted to use these black chipboard numbers, but beyond that, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Oh, and I'm going to use my awesome grabby paint pen. These are my favorite paint pens so far because they're extra, extra fine and they're a great price. So I used those to add little loops to the tops of the photo, so it looked like those were ornaments also. And then I decided, I wasn't sure if I was going to add bows or what I wanted to put, like another sticker or whatever on the tops of the ornaments. So I ended up deciding to use some twine. And then as I was going, I just was like, oh, let me vary it up. I'll do red and green. So that's what I did. I cut up a bunch of red and green twine, made 6 little bows, and used a dot of glue to adhere them to the tops of the ornaments. And I think it turns out super cute. Then I'm just using my double-sided tape to adhere the ornament, the paper portion, to the transparency, making sure that the little backside of the brad that I used on story 23 is not peeking out or hanging out from behind. And I always, it's so satisfying when I peel the double-sided tape off and I get the backing off right away. I'm like, yes. I can do anything today. I win. No, I'm just kidding. But it is. It's very satisfying. Okay, if you know, you know. So that's when I was like, this is, you know, at this point in the process where I'm like, you know, I could do all red twine, but let me make it extra Christmassy and do red and green. And it definitely works because the photo on the right, the larger photo, is I managed to take that snapshot when the lights were all mostly like traditional Christmas colors, red and green. And so it works out really nicely. And I'm going to try not to let the fact that I can see the adhesive on the back of the gold trim from Story 23, I'm going to try not to let that drive me crazy, but you can take bets and see if it's going to drive me crazy or not. Maybe we'll just pretend. We'll pretend it's fine. And maybe you didn't even notice it. Maybe you had no idea it was there until I opened my big fat mouth and told you. Anyways, I'm feeling some kind of way, guys. I'm feeling a little bit silly because I am so tired right now. But I want to get this done so that I can keep moving on. I'm like on a roll, you know what I mean? I get like a second wind, even though I hate to leave my craft room at Christmas time. I'm like, because by the time we leave, I've usually finished at least, I try to finish the first volume of my December daily. I always have two because I go up to the 31st. And so I'm like, you know, pumping out the content and December daily and all in, and then it's like, oh, switch, we got to go to Michigan and do Christmas. And then, you know, I come back and I'm like, oh, I got another second wind. I can't wait to, you know, finish volume 2. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, ooh, let's keep going. Let's keep this train moving forward. Let's keep chugging on. So that little pleather sticker that says more twinkle lights came from, I think it was an add-on, maybe last year. So, but I'm not 100% sure. Sorry. There were a few of them, and I used a bunch of them, but I had that more twinkle lights, and I know that's what it says on top of the, like, that die cut that I'm going to use to tell the other part of the story, but I think, or no, I don't think that's exactly what it says. It says twinkle lights forever, so I guess it's okay. But clearly this is all about twinkle lights and seeing the lights. So once I get all of those adhered, then I need to, well, I don't need to, but I want to find something to put on the 3 little photos that I've taken, and I'm going to pull out some word phrase stickers in the red because, again, I think the red plays off of the right side of the page. And so I have one that says twinkle lights, of course, bringing back the twinkle, one that says bright, and one that says delightful. And that follow la 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 sticker that I used earlier in the video is also from last year's kit. I think it was last year. I don't know. I think this is the 3rd year I've done it, so my kits might be kind of mixed up. My bad. But as always, you know, if you have like specific questions about an item or something or a product that you saw me use, just let me know in the comments and I'll happily get back to you as soon as I can. And if I don't have the information, I apologize, but I'll let you know either way. So I guess I don't do the sticker thing. I lied. The sticker thing comes at the end. I'm a liar. This was totally not planned, and I winged it. I wung it. I winged it. Wung it. What's the proper tense for that verb? I winged it. I don't know. Welcome to Shenanigans with ChappyPlans. So I'm going to take the same baker's twine, which I don't usually use. Usually I use like embroidery thread, but I felt like I used it on the left. I'm going to use it on the right. And so I use it to kind of sort of like create, it's supposed to look like a stringed situation for the lights to hang on, those 3 little light bulbs. And those puffy light bulbs came in the advent calendar, the sticker advent calendar this year. I get it every year. It's probably like one of my favorite add-on pieces for December daily. But that's because like I'm a sticker freak and I love stickers. So, I mean, if you love stickers, highly recommend. So I'm just like poking holes here and there and figuring it out as I go, trying to make like a wonky, you know, like wire or string for the lights to hang on, if you will. And then I just, you know, adhered them to the top and I figured it worked. Now, if I didn't have the title at the top of the die cut tag that already says Twinkle Lights Forever, I might have chosen a word phrase sticker or some type of die cut or something like that to go in the top where I'm putting the lights, because there's so much space that is available for something like that. But I knew that I wanted to use these 3 puffy stickers. So I think it turned out pretty cute. I'm not mad about it. It could have been better thought out and maybe a little bit cuter, but I'm okay with it. And so I take this Right Now card, which is from the Now Story Kit, I think, and I trim it down to 2 by 2, round the corners, and then I'm going to measure a little slit in the photo once I decide where I want it to rest and pull out of, and use my We Are Memory Keepers. It's like a magnetic cutting board because the ruler that it came with is magnetic, so it kind of helps hold your paper in place that you are going to be cutting. And then I can add the journaling right in there. And I'm going to just add a tiny little bit of the green baker's twine to the top of that tag so that there's green on the right as well as on the left. And all I wrote was that on our way home from Chapman Christmas, we decided to stop in a few neighborhoods to see the intricate, beautiful light displays. A few of them had big, amazing displays synced to music we turned on and tuned into in our car. It felt like we were on a fun scavenger hunt. And that is the only journaling I'm going to have for this story. Once I have the card tucked in and I know where I want it to sit, I can add my double-sided tape around the borders and then on the sides of where I want the card to live so that it won't move. And then I can adhere it to the die cut insert. And that is also from last year, I believe. All right, it's looking pretty cute. It just tucks right in there and it's perfect, I think. And then I love the We Are Makers, or I think it's We Are Memory Keepers at the time, but now they've switched their name, so now it's We Are Makers. But I love that crocodile tool because it has different size hole punches. And it makes this little teeny tiny one, which is perfect for the baker's twine. And then that is going to do it. Once I finish story 25, as I'm working on it at some point, I do add some rickrack ribbon to the top of the die cut, but that I waited to add because I wanted to see how it would look with the colors that I work with in story 25. So you'll see that in a few. All right, now I'm going to go back over to the left side of the story where the ornaments are after I punched the holes and decide this is the part where it needs just a little something extra on the photos. So I go back to this page of puffy stickers that I got the Fa La La from and put a few of those little starburst stickers on the photos along with the word phrase stickers. The very last detail I'm going to add in the bottom right of the die cut tag is the gold scalloped trim that I purchased off Etsy because I didn't measure out the photo quite to be quite long enough, but it's fine. I actually really like the scallop trim on the bottom and it was like a happy accident. So I just used some redline tape to adhere that faux leather scalloped gold trim down. I personally think it makes such a nice finishing touch, adding a little bit of texture. And now you can see what story 24 looks like in real time. I absolutely love the way it turned out. Alrighty, so moving on to story number 25, which is also the story of Christmas Day. So in this case, the story number and the actual event that I'm documenting took place on that day. The first thing I'm going to do, and I definitely experienced, decision fatigue because I really got overwhelmed trying to pick out what I wanted to do to the backside of this tag because it's really just a holding space. And I knew I just wanted it to be. I didn't want it to go right into journaling or a photo. I knew I wanted it just to be a space for the eyes to kind of rest between stories, even though it is kind of like it is part of story 25. And so I ended up settling on this Merry Christmas paper. I had the green pattern paper with the red and green and pink shades on the back that are just Merry Christmas repeated. And oh, here I go. I'm adding the green rickrack to the top of the tag because I'm like, oh, that's good. It matches story 25 and it looks cute with story 24. So let's just go with it. And then I'm still not married to it, so I didn't even finish decorating that. I'm going to move on to the main portion of story 25, which I did edit out quite a bit, I will say, because otherwise it would have been extremely boring in my opinion. So I do share with you on camera some of the process, and then the rest I do off camera because it just is the same technique over and over again. You'll see what I mean in a second. So I have this like scalloped square paper, gorgeous red with the gold foiled scalloped edging. It's stunning. And I knew I got the idea from seeing, what's her name? Jenny, the Ray Pie, I think is how you say it. I'll link up her Instagram, or if she has a YouTube, I'll link that. But I'm not sure if she does have YouTube. I know she has Instagram. But I was inspired by her layout. I scrap lifted it. And she is like a super wizard of doing hybrid scrapbooking. I am the opposite of that. But I loved how she took vellum and embossed it. And I think she maybe numbered her squares. I decided to, and I had considered that, but I decided to use the little square stamp, which is the same size, 2x2 stamp. So it's perfect, very serendipitous to do the embossing. And it's the same Merry Christmas font and pattern. Here, I'm pulling it out right now. Repeated, and it matches exactly the font on the pattern paper on the left. So it was perfect that this is what I ended up doing. So I trimmed down a bunch of vellum paper, which I hadn't used this vellum before, and it definitely gives me quite the headache, and I'll get to that. But it's very thin. I got it at Staples. It's just their brand, but I do not recommend it if you're gonna do what I do, which is create little flaps. Jenny, I think her name is Jenny, she stitched her pockets on, which is a much better option in my opinion because this vellum was very flimsy. But anyways, you can see I trimmed it down, and it's 1.5 by 2.5, and that leaves me 1/4 inch to score on 3 sides to create flaps that I will then use double-sided tape to adhere to the square on the pattern paper so that it creates a little pocket, and you'll see what I mean by that in a second. Right now, I am going to set up all of these like a kind of assembly line and prep them and get them ready for the embossing. So I used my static pouch on the paper, then I used my Versomagic ink, stamped down the images, dumped the powder on the stamped image, poured the excess back into the jar, and repeat. And I'm just using these little tweezers to kind of help me pick up the vellum, and they come in handy too when you're embossing so that you don't burn your fingers, because it can get hot, and especially like on a little surface. So you can see I'm just using a piece of scrap paper underneath to collect the excess powder. And then I'm going to pull out my heat tool, and then it's like Ali Edwards says, it's the most satisfying thing ever to watch the powder become embossed. Oh, and before I do that, I am going to, some of the vellum pieces, like the powder made a mess. So I'm going to take a dry paint brush, and just carefully try to get some of that excess powder where it shouldn't be off. So it takes some patience, but I was listening to my audiobook, so it worked out just fine. It was challenging, but satisfying at the same time. So once I get that cleared off, then I'm going to pull out my heat tool. Now, what I mean about this vellum not being the best is it's thin. So when I score it, which means just fold it, to create those flaps, it cracks and breaks. And then it's also kind of difficult to pull the photos in and out of the pockets. So it's not the most like user-friendly page. It looks really cute, but its functionality is not very practical, because in real life, if you're looking at the album and you pull out all the photos, it's kind of a pain to get some of them back inside of the vellum pockets, which is why stitching would be a better way to adhere the vellum. So, I mean, the vellum definitely ripped on some of the pockets, so I went in with just plain old clear tape and tried to trim it down really thin and then tape it to the paper so that you can't really see it. But I mean, and you really honestly can't tell, but in person, unless you're like looking up very closely. So now you'll see I'm using my scoreboard to score a 1/4 inch around each of, well, 2 of the sides along the bottom and then along each of the sides. And honestly, you can barely tell that it says Merry Christmas because it's so tiny, and the embossing, it adds some dimension to the letters, but you can see that it says Christmas, and then you figure out, oh, that must say Merry. And then when it's next to the green pattern paper on the left, it definitely is obvious that that's what it says. So these photos are cut down to about 1 3/4 inches by 2 inches. And I'm going to use my, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to use to be able to pull them in and out of the pockets. I thought about tabs, but I thought that might look like, I don't know, too much because the photos are so narrow, like the Allie Edwards tabs that she has. I thought about paper clips. I thought about a lot of different things. I ended up just using these like gold ornament, like paper ornament strings that I had left over. I have a whole bunch of them, I think. Oh, I know what they were for. They're for these little plastic candy canes that I bought a few years ago at the craft store. And they're basically meant to be like an embellishment to hang on a tree or a card or something like that. But I got them for December Daily, and I don't ever really use the strings that I came with, but I kept it. And that's what I ended up using to act as like the ribbon. See, I did it off camera. I punched all the holes and tied all of the ribbon off camera. And you can see I have 20 photos in here from Christmas Day. And of course, I do have journaling to go along with it. And I'm going to get to that part in just a second. But right now, I'm just showing you kind of in real time what I ended up, what it ended up looking like once I got all the pockets taped down and all the photos inside all the pockets. The journaling, I decided, is going to be tucked in between the flap that I'm going to create. So you can see I scored this pattern paper right down the middle, and in between this picture of Nora, which is probably my favorite photo of Christmas, which is why I blew it up so big, and Hoover snuggling on the chair in the sunroom with all of, well, not all, a very small portion of Grandpa's nutcrackers. He has a huge collection in the windowsill behind her. Between this photo and the back of the scalloped pocket page I just did is where the journaling will be tucked in. So I pre-printed the photo to match, fit the size of the flap. And then I end up leaving a little bit of white space so I can add some pom-pom trim to the edge. I then found this card in my stash. I think it's from the Quiet Story Kit. And you wouldn't know. I mean, it's just a green patterned, really cute cross patterned card that's got spaces for journaling, just says 1, 2, 3, and some squares for journaling or photos. And so I journaled about Christmas Day and the photos that I included. So I wrote, that it's always busy, but this year there are a few extra folks. We crammed in, the cousins couldn't wait to play together. I'm just summing up what I wrote because it's kind of a novel. How Matt and I ended up doing some prep work, and he did almost all the cooking because my poor mother-in-law had to go be with her mom, who went into hospice like the day before, I think it was. So just kind of talking about that and how that's been difficult. I'm not particularly close with my mother-in-law's mom, but of course I absolutely love and care for my mother-in-law, and seeing her navigate this is, obviously tough for me and for Matt. So I journaled about that. And then I journaled about how all the cousins couldn't wait to hang out, and then they, were showing each other what they got for Christmas, some of the gifts that they brought. They colored together, they made up some games, they played outside. And then, let's see, I talked about how we ate prime rib, we had dessert, and then all the kiddos get gifts. So, you know, we buy gifts for all the nieces and nephews, not for one another, since we're all adults. There's just too many of us. So, and so that's always fun. The kids always really love being able to open their presents in front of each other. And then the third journaling spot talks about one of our favorite traditions, which is all the photos that are on the bottom row of the inside of this flap. It's basically like Pass the Parcel, if you know what that is, but he creates like an adult and a kid-friendly version, so the adults get to do it together and the kids do it together, and you stand in a circle around a table, and he wraps up all kinds of goodies in this huge saran wrapped ball. So he just rolls up goodies like miniature, you know, alcoholic, like, you know, the little mini alcohol bottles, like a miniature gin and tequila and gift cards and chocolates, and it's really fun. And then, like, obviously that's the adult version. The kids version has like candy, but also gift cards, and then like dollars and toys and things like that. So he wraps all of that up in this huge saran wrap ball, and you stand in a circle and somebody starts to unwrap, and while you're trying desperately to unravel as many treats as you can, the person next to you is trying to roll doubles with a pair of dice. And when they roll doubles, you have to pass the parcel to the person who just rolled doubles, and then they get to go. And so on and so forth until it's an empty saran wrap ball and there's no ball left, just everybody has treats. So it's super funny and fun, and we love playing this every year. And Steve, Matt's younger brother, is the one who puts this together for all of us, which is so great. And so I included some of those photos. Then you saw me finish the tag. I finally committed to gluing down that scalloped frame and then the 25 sticker, which is an older sticker from previous kit. And here is a look at stories 24 and 25. I love the way these turned out. I would love to know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Please like the video if you did, subscribe if you're not, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, friends. Remember that you are enough. Bye.